afternoon, depending on where you are in the United States today. This is Amanda Scott at Capture Higher Ed, and I'm here with Converge Consulting as we are going to present on what is new and next in the world of digital advertising specific to graduate professional studies programs. So I'm going to introduce this morning Haley Warwick, but before I get to that, I want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. Right now, all of your lines are muted, but if you would like to converse with us during today's webinar, we have a chat box at the very bottom of your GoToWebinar control panel. You can type in questions there at any point in time, and we'll be monitoring those. As for questions, we will be waiting to the end of Haley's presentation on digital marketing and then answering questions at the end, but please go ahead and fill up our question box as we go, and we'll be talking through those at the very end. After today's presentation, you will receive a copy of the presentation as well as a slide deck so that you can reference it or share it with any of your colleagues on campus. And then also as a follow-up, today, we're really going to be focusing on digital marketing. What does Converge know about digital marketing for grad? What has Capture learned about digital marketing for grad? But we're going to have products and solution-specific demonstrations that are more about what we do, what Capture does, what Converge does in the coming weeks, and we'll invite you to those to attend those as well. But today, we just really want to focus on what we know about digital marketing in that space. So at this point in time, I'll introduce myself and then I'll turn it over to Haley. I'm Amanda Scott. I'm a Senior Director at Capture Higher Ed. And one of the markets for which I am responsible for is the graduate and professional studies market at Capture, and bringing digital solutions as well as marketing automation and traditional search into our grad programs. So that's what I do. I come from higher ed. My last seated position was the Director of Financial Aid at Mars Hill University, but I've been on this side of the desk for a few years now, quite a few years now. So I'm going to turn it over to Haley, as she is our guest presenter today. Thank you, Haley, for joining the Capture webinar and for teaching us today. So Haley Warwick.
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Hi, everyone. I'm Haley Warwick. I'm a digital marketing principal at Converge Consulting. And for those of you who don't know anything about Converge, we are a higher education marketing agency, work exclusively with higher ed, and do a lot of work in the graduate and professional education space. We've been around about 7 years, focused a lot on digital advertising as well as website design, content strategy, content marketing as well. And my role at Converge is really to lead our overall product and client strategy. I started off the background doing pay-per-click campaigns for a large agency where I learned everything about digital marketing that I could, came here about 5 years ago, and really built our digital advertising product. I also lead our partnerships with Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Bing, where we get kind of exclusive access to betas just based on the size of clientele that we work with, as well as just ongoing education and first kind of access to all the new features going on. So really excited to share kind of some of our learnings with lots of examples, because we know everyone loves looking at examples during webinars, and hopefully give you some inspiration on kind of how to take your digital strategy to the next level. All right.
One of the challenges that we see in recruitment for graduate and professional studies is the stealth applicant and trying to generate inquiries. A lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, students will just apply to your institution and you don't know how they ended up applying. A lot of the time, even if you try to do name purchases, etc., they are taking the test to go to your school. It's really about, one of my colleagues, Jack Klett, who is our Director of Graduate and Online Initiatives, taught me that it's really about not if they are going to attend your grad school or another grad school. It is, are they going to attend grad school with you or not? So we need to be able to get out in front of people at the beginning to educate them about coming to your grad school, the whole decision to attend grad school, and that all is before the application process, So that's one of the challenges that we face in the industry. And one of the things that we're really going to talk about is how do you get out in front of grad students before they apply, and how do you influence them on their decision journey as they work towards that application and their decision process to attend your institution.
Yep, so like Amanda said, once you know who your audience is and what they're after, it's a great way to leverage that to decide when you want to get in front of them and where to be advertising. And just based on our experience, I think we worked with almost every type of graduate program. We know kind of the ins and outs on what works best with different types of programs. We know that everything's kind of always changing with digital marketing too. So thinking about things with a solid foundation of who your target audience is will get you in a good spot to just keep on top of the pulse of digital marketing. So with all of our clients, we like to first start by defining who our target audience is. This is really the foundation of our strategy. We always develop kind of user target personas that we'll refer to with any of our marketing initiatives. So we really want to decide who that target audience is. We'll look at both student demographic background with maybe a few years of past enrollment data, as well as insights from your admissions team, your marketing directors, as well as possibly alumni and student surveys, if you guys are able to get those. So we'll look at that to decide what are those commonalities of maybe common backgrounds. So their demographics, different age ranges, where they're coming geography-wise, as well as maybe their past work and education experience. What that allows us to do is really hone in and leverage that information for further targeting with advertising. But on the flip side, we also want to understand what are those goals that those prospects have, what motivates them, what are also their challenges and pain points that we need to address in our marketing collateral. So we use these strategy documents as references for both driving the channels we want to market on, but also how we're going to message our target audience as well. So something that we're seeing more and more is storytelling with student-centric content, especially with that younger audience. We're getting to the point where the younger gen, we're no longer always marketing to millennials. We're now looking at that Gen Z as them being possible graduate prospects in the near future. So we know that, one, they don't like ads a lot. So making sure you're getting in front of them with content that they're going to care about by telling stories is great. We also like to utilize our personas to really drive specific copy to those audiences. One way to really hone in on that target audience is to speak to something that would resonate well with them. So an example we have here, we're working with UMBC and their online MS in information systems. They have a strong military presence that they really wanted to go after. So we created specific creative as well as messaging to really get in front of that audience, and through channels like Facebook, Instagram, even some options on LinkedIn, we can hone in on that audience based on their background, how they complete their profiles. We can also place these ads on relative websites that we might think that they might be on. So you can see here, we speak really specific to that audience. We also want to make sure that we're recognizing the point of the journey of the user. So sometimes we'll be wanting to push out initial awareness, but then there's also audiences who have already engaged and they might be interested in taking a next step. So this ad that we have an example for Michigan State is advertising. We're using this to leverage to our current prospect list as well as a retargeting pool, so users who have gotten to our website before and engaged, to get them to attend an event. They've already shown engagement. We don't necessarily feel like we need to message them as generally. We want to get in front of them by getting them to come to a local event. I know one common thing that we run into with our clients is they're limited with creative resources. They don't have enough creative, they don't have the budget to do photo shoots, they don't have someone on staff to help with video resources. One way that we always kind of look to accommodate that is looking at those free photo tools that are out there. There's a lot of things out there as far as editing photos to create more motion. There's also a lot of resources if you are working with another agency or even with specific vendors. For example, Google, they offer in-house creative resources where they can do anything from assess what you have out there, but to also help you edit maybe video footage that you have. So if you are ever running into that, do a quick Google search. There's a lot of resources out there on how people get creative with their creative resources. Another thing that we're seeing a lot more of is storytelling with video content. Video consumption has continued to increase year over year. I think if anyone's on Facebook, Instagram, you constantly see video. LinkedIn just rolled out a lot of videos. If you guys are active on LinkedIn, you're probably seeing a lot more video as well. So we wanted to play you 2 examples where we really leverage student stories throughout our video content. So give me 1 second while I get this to play.
This program has definitely helped me understand the science behind teaching, and being able to infuse my love of music into the art of teaching has definitely taken my instruction to the next level. To be able to infuse the different components of fine arts and be able to embed that inside of my daily instruction of English and math and science and social studies on a daily basis.
One of the really fun programs I was part of was Spartan Innovations. You actually take a technology at MSU and launch it.
I actually got to create a commercialization strategy for diamond semiconductors.
There are so many opportunities to be involved. It's 2 years, and just throwing yourself into it 100% is the best way to guarantee your success when you graduate.
Okay, so those are 2 videos. So you can see from Clemson, we're working with their College of Education. What we typically have our clients start off with is we'll brainstorm on who are those top alumni or students that we want to engage with. And you can see the Clemson example, not high production. We're really highlighting students, the students giving their perspective on the program, and then we're leveraging university graphics to kind of bring it all together. So great example of a lower budget type of video based on just leveraging your alumni the right way. And then with Michigan State, you can see the student highlighted an aspect of the program, a component of the program that we thought would be interest of other prospective students. This one was a little bit more high production as far as kind of having an actual production team come to campus, but you can see we're able to leverage a lot of different shots. And with both of these videos, we're leveraging them across advertising purposes, so all the different platforms, also on their landing page, different cuts for their website, and also with their email campaigns. So if you're ever curious on where to get started, a great way to kind of think through this is identifying those top alumni where you can leverage them for great success stories, and then thinking through the resources that you do have and how to get creative. And there are a lot of free editing tools and a lot of resources with different platforms such as Google to help you take next steps there. Kind of taking next steps with leveraging your students is really activating the voice of your student community. I'm sure everyone's heard about influencer marketing. It's kind of has this notation of being very product oriented, but there's ways to use influencers within higher education as well. So for example, if you have notable alumni, maybe a notable partnership with a company, think through opportunities, maybe upcoming events, maybe they can help with kind of next steps with maybe writing a blog post or partnering on a content piece where we can put that out into the market. Student-generated content is great too. I think more and more graduate programs, especially, and we've seen this a lot with executive MBA programs, are using actual blog writing as part of their curriculum to tell their experience about the program. So that's a great way to leverage both with pushing that out on your website, pushing that out through advertising, and then also leveraging that in your email campaigns as well. Testimonials are probably the easiest way to go about activating the voice of your student community. I would think From what I see, a lot of programs do kind of recap surveys at the end of programs and ask for this type of information. So once you do compile those, ensuring that you also have photography to go with those, there's tons of ways you can leverage testimonials, both from an advertising and marketing, overall marketing perspective. And then just kind of overall alumni presence. I would say always keep in touch with your alumni, keep them engaged, invite them to events. I think things are going to happen organically with how you can activate them and leverage them into overall marketing efforts. So now that we talked about kind of defining your audience and ways to kind of go about messaging, we want to dive into what strategies work well and when for graduate education. So we have a few pieces of information here. I'm going to start with our kind of funnel stage comparison. So when we approach digital advertising, we always think about the user's point in their decision-making process. They're either aware of your program or the program that exists, or they need to become aware, and you kind of move them down the funnel. So building awareness can be key, especially for brand new programs, more niche programs that maybe people have not heard of, but building awareness is definitely important for starting that user journey. So we'll leverage things such as display or banner advertising to get in front of users based on how they're engaging online. So the websites they're on, the content they're engaging with, their different search and browsing behaviors. We'll leverage Gmail advertising to get in front of people when they're in their inbox. There's a lot of different things we can do with social media, which we'll dive into a lot today. And then YouTube consumption continues to increase. YouTube, if you guys don't know, is part of the Google network, so you can leverage all the same great capabilities as you can with any other type of Google AdWords product. So it's great to leverage video assets that you have. And then as you drive people down further through the decision-making process, that's when search engine advertising comes into play. So we see great success at that, as well as retargeting, so staying in top of mind with those users as you kind of follow them around online. Looking over to the left, you can see that these are some of our benchmarks we have for just kind of overall graduate programs as far as cost per lead. And when we say cost per lead, that's looking at really inquiry-based. So we can define a lead as kind of an inquiry, someone who has submitted their information after engaging with one of our ads. We typically do see lower cost per leads for some of our awareness strategies, and that's due to just less competition with some of that advertising. We do see more competitive, kind of increased percentage when it comes to cost per leads, when it comes to search and retargeting efforts, just due to overall increased competition. If anyone runs any search engine marketing campaigns, you know sometimes you're paying anywhere from $5 to $20 a click, just based on how competitive your program is in the marketplace. But you're probably also seeing the trend where people coming in through a search or retargeting campaign have a lot more intent. So we'll typically see higher lead to enrollment rates for people entering in the interest and consideration phase. What does that mean for you? It's kind of finding that perfect balance. You don't want to just do awareness because you can get lower cost per leads. You want to have a mix to kind of reach every user where they're at in their decision-making process, and continue to assess and adjust your strategy based on kind of end lead to enrollment rates. So we're going to get into a few things with kind of some of the newer things that we're seeing across different advertising avenues. So vertical videos and stories for graduate programs. I'm sure everyone has seen Instagram stories, Snapchat stories. Snapchat's been around a little bit longer, but Instagram, probably about a year ago, maybe a little longer, released their version of kind of story ads. So that vertical format of video where users typically upload what they're doing at the time, but now they are offering advertising opportunities here. So we've been doing a lot of testing with graduate audiences, and what's great about this type of platform or this type of opportunity is you're able to leverage all those same targeting capabilities, audience targeting options, as you are with kind of general Facebook and Snapchat advertising as well. It's a great way to get in front of people with quick snippets of information. Typically, we see people leveraging this for highlighting different stats about the program, quick testimonials, program highlights. and have seen a variety of things work well. So I'm going to show you 2 examples quickly. Examples, you can see that these are very different from each other, and what we're seeing is just different type of creative out there. We haven't seen one thing I would say work better than the other, so this is a great opportunity to kind of test, because it is so new into the market, test some different options. So you can see we're testing a more kind of banner ad type of approach with UMBC and just leveraging what we're doing with existing creative. But then we're also looking at Emory's, a different, very specific event they have going on and leveraging footage from that. So I would say get creative with it, test it out. Both, at least I know Snapchat, I'll double check on Instagram, Snapchat has a great tool to actually help you build these. So even if you just have graphics, as long as you have your logos, some core messaging, you can build almost your own kind of Snapchat story ad. So definitely test this out, kind of look into it a little bit further. There's great opportunities to get in front of users with content that they're definitely more engaged with. Carousel ads, they're probably nothing new to most of you. You've seen these as you browsed online, but we're starting to see more and more people use them in different ways. So what carousel ads allow you to do is, instead of that one static image, static message, you're able to have multiple images kind of throughout your advertising. It's a great way to create more interactiveness with your advertising and break up just kind of the static imagery and videos that people continue to see as they scroll through. When we've implemented this for clients, we've seen click-through rates go up anywhere from 10 to almost 50%. People are just more engaged when they can have things that they can swipe through. I think it's a swiping by nature community now where people just want to engage while they're online and kind of browse through content at their own pace. A way to kind of really leverage this type of advertising is just tell a story with your ads. So a lot of times we'll use this to kind of talk through those core key positions of the program. We'll look to potentially highlight different student stories. One way we're using this for clients that have kind of lower budgets and limited capabilities there is to advertise multiple programs or multiple concentrations so people can see their options, especially when there's an overlap in target audiences. It can be a great way and a cost-effective way to get people engaged with what you do have to offer and let them kind of self-select on what they're interested in. And something that carousel ads are actually brand new to LinkedIn as of about 2 months ago, and they're seeing some great engagement there. So if you haven't been on LinkedIn for a while, are interested in testing some new things out, starting with carousel ads could be a great way to get started. Starting to see a lot more with YouTube advertising. We actually just had a Google rep in our office last week who did a great presentation on how much YouTube has changed over even just the last year. But for those of you who don't know, YouTube is the second largest search engine behind Google, and it's also an entity of Google. So as I mentioned before, you can leverage all the same AdWords capabilities with your YouTube advertising. There's a variety of different ad formats. I definitely suggest you kind of dig in, but what we're seeing a lot of are bumper ads, so those 6-second ads that you'll see in between videos, as well as anywhere from 15 to 30-second ads that also play kind of in stream. Those videos are great for building awareness. I think one common objection we have from our clients in the industry is, yes, we're getting video views, but they're not driving people to do anything. They've recently introduced more objectives or kind of targeting options and ad format options to really drive next step action. So by leveraging one of their TrueView video formats, emphasizing that you want to focus on leads, and setting a target CPA, so in our case, a target cost per lead. Google will automatically optimize your campaigns to drive users who they think are going to convert at that target cost per lead. And you can also set up more calls to action. So you can see in this example that we have with Emory that in addition to playing the ad, they now are offering an ad kind of segment below it where you can click to learn more, and that can take you to a landing page. So we're seeing a lot of different strategies here. We're seeing both short videos that highlight the program in a more kind of graphic way. You can see these two examples, but also seeing a lot of people use more leveraging their long form videos as well. I think a lot of schools have great video assets that are longer, maybe 1 to 2 minutes that they leverage for website. We've been doing a lot more with leveraging those for our retargeting initiatives. So users who have already engaged, they're still going to be on YouTube. Let's get in front of them with maybe more storytelling ads. And also, like I said, they have great targeting options as well. And in case you guys aren't familiar, we pulled out a few of those just for you to better understand some of the things that are available to get you thinking about why YouTube could be a great fit. So with our audience targeting capabilities, you can hone in on specific demographics. One key one that I know graduate programs would want to leverage is looking at kind of highest level of education attainment. And we can select bachelor's degree. We can also build custom intent audiences, which will pull in keywords to really indicate users who have searched and browsed relating to these topics before. And then we can also pull in in-market audiences. And these are Google's predefined behavioral segments where they're analyzing both the cadence and kind of your overall search and browsing behavior around certain subjects. For example, post-secondary education, so higher education. All of these ways would be great to target users. And you can actually layer these all on top of each other to get extremely targeted. On the right-hand side, you can see our placements. You can target specific YouTube channels, specific videos. So we've been doing a lot with thinking through, okay, we are trying to promote an MBA program, for example. We might go want to put our ads targeting one of our competitors, look at placing ads on a specific website, and maybe even finding specific videos that we'd want to advertise as well. So there's a ton of different options. I highly suggest you kind of think through if you have video assets or are considering taking next steps with video production, how you might target your audience as well. So reviewing a few of these strategies a little bit further, we kind of gave you an overall view of awareness versus consideration and intent, stats and benchmark data. But just as kind of a high level overview of what we're seeing on our end, just for budget planning purposes, is we typically do see lower cost per leads when it comes to some of the social channels like Facebook and Instagram. Because there's so much usage and a wider range of audiences, there's more opportunities for ad space, lowering overall costs. When it gets to AdWords, it is more competitive. Like I said, you are bidding to show up within those top 3 or 4 positions. So it is limited with ad space. You're going to see higher competition. And same with LinkedIn. Because it is a smaller kind of network, it is growing pretty exponentially. They do have limited ad space, or more limited than I would say Facebook and Instagram, and they are more exclusive and want to make sure the quality is there. So you'll see higher cost per leads there as well. And then looking at more campaign type. So within all of these platforms, there's a variety of ways that you can leverage advertising. So you can do some of the lead gen formats, which are focused on users actually inquiring directly on the platform. So instead of sending them to your website or a landing page, they can enter kind of in a pre-filled out form once they click on your call to action button. Sponsored post is that method of just kind of sponsoring content, and then doing a lot with in-mail, display, retargeting, just basic text ads on search and Gmail. You can see how we see different both cost per leads across the board, as well as conversion rates. So again, it's that finding that balance. I think there's going to be some strategies that work better for some programs than others, but understanding that you need to get in front of users at every point of the decision-making process, all the way from awareness to enrollment. You can find a good mix of strategies here. So diving a little bit further into LinkedIn, because we know LinkedIn being a professional based platform, that a lot of graduate programs are looking to market programs this way. So LinkedIn just had their annual Education Connect conference about 2 weeks ago. It was a great event. We had a few of our colleagues go, but what they did a really good job this year. They had great client stories that they shared, new benchmark data that we don't always get to see, as well as great client stories and new features that they're bringing out. And one quote that we really took away to kind of think through about how we better our marketing strategies is, if a student feels like they are being marketed to, we aren't doing our jobs as marketers. This was a kind of a key tagline, if you must, throughout everything that they were presenting, and really got us thinking about how we're marketing and how LinkedIn does such a great job of making their advertising ensure that we're not being too intrusive with what we're doing. So a few examples. You guys are probably familiar with a few of these, but LinkedIn probably about a year ago rolled out in-mail ads on their self-serve platform. So if you haven't advertised on LinkedIn before or it's been a while, in-mail is an initiative where we're able to directly send almost emails through LinkedIn's messaging portal. You used to have to buy these through kind of an overarching kind of contact there who would give you a minimum that you would have to spend, but now you can do this all on your own self-serve. And what's great about this is we see this be a really cost-effective approach. With some of the things that we're doing on other LinkedIn advertising, such as the sponsored posts that you see throughout the newsfeed, you're sometimes paying pennies to the dollar when it comes to in-mail. So great kind of strategy to get in front of, and I'm going to show a few more examples. But first, want you guys to understand that you can really hone in on the right fit person. So you can leverage anything from their geography and their age to their job title, the company they work at, and possibly maybe their undergrad institution. You can also upload lists, so such as your prospect lists, maybe purchase lists to target users that way. And then you can also retarget users and get really honed in on users who have already engaged with you. This is an example with Michigan State, because something we always get asked is, what should I even message people with? You know, it's this longer form ad format. You want to make the most of it, getting in front of them with relevant information, but you want to make certain that it's worth the investment of your time. So for Michigan State, they actually rolled out a new kind of waiving your GMAT GRE initiative kind of as their last deadline was approaching. So what we did with them is we leveraged their current prospect pool, their retargeting segments, as well as a purchase list, and we got in front of these users with a custom message to talk about their top right program and why they're waiving the GMAT and GRE and how this person could qualify. As you can see, we can have this message come from Paul North, their director, and it can be personalized. You can see here it's saying, "Hi, Haley," and I feel like this message is personalized towards me. Some other examples, we worked with Avila University, who has an MBA program as well, not as, I would say, well known as far as rankings. So they really wanted to get in front of users on why Avila for their MBA. What we did with them is we highlighted why concentrations are important when it comes to MBA degrees. So we highlighted the different opportunities that are available, as well as why Avila for MBA. And then with Clemson University, we actually leverage it just solely for retargeting to try to get users to come to an upcoming open house with a more personalized message as well. Something else that LinkedIn actually just rolled out, they've been doing this a while through more kind of overarching contracts that you have to work with individual reps on, but it's now also available in the self-serve platform, and that's dynamic ads. So these ads you probably see as you browse online, but these messages that kind of call you out by your name, sometimes mention your title, and get you to try to take a next step with some information. So what's great about these is you can create them automatically, and they're automatically personalized. And it's really easy to use and pre-build these out. That they offer a variety of templates, but it's another way to get in front of users with more custom content. And they offer some great things with A/B testing, different calls to action. So how we're leveraging this with some of our clients is looking at downloading content offers such as view books, looking to get users to take the next step and request information about the program or attend an event. But it's a great kind of cost-effective way to get in front of your target audience on LinkedIn and another way, besides InMail and some of the sponsor posts that we've been talking about. And then I believe the last thing we wanted to highlight that we're seeing with LinkedIn are their lead gen ad formats. And actually Facebook and Instagram have this type of format as well. But if you're not familiar, this is a great way, especially if maybe you don't have a great website page, a great landing page, you can really leverage this ad format to kind of promote your program as well as capture users' information to start following up with them. So how it works is a user would be scrolling through maybe their Facebook feed or LinkedIn feed. They would see an ad. All of our ads will have some type of call to action like you see here, the download now. And instead of clicking off to a website or landing page, it actually pre-populates a form for you to fill out. And most of the time this is pre-filled with your existing login information. So it makes it incredibly easy for the user to submit their information. That information can then, depending on your CRM, connect directly to your CRM or be stored in the platform for you to download. So it's a really great way to leverage your existing assets and create a great user experience especially for mobile users who are wanting to do things quick, constantly on the go. A very easy process for them to take next steps and inquire, connect with you about your program. Overall, we've been testing this a lot with kind of A/B testing lead gen versus sending users to a landing page, and we see typically significant decreases in overall cost per lead, and sometimes almost 50%. It's always kind of that balance though. If you make it too easy for users, sometimes you'll have a larger volume, but the quality will go down. So it's definitely always good to test out and understand kind of that user journey. Some other platforms that we continue to get questions about are Spotify, Pandora, Reddit, and Twitch. So Spotify has grown pretty significantly. About 2 years ago, they rolled out their own self-serve platform where you can kind of go in and set up your own type of advertising. They also work with a lot of programmatic vendors, meaning programmatic display, such as DoubleClick, AppNexus, the Trade Desk, where they can place ads through Spotify as well. But Spotify offers anything from banner ads, audio ads, to kind of home screen takeovers, and you can target audiences not as segmented as a lot of platforms, but typically based on maybe some overarching demographics, maybe by the music that they listen to. But it's great for really like high-level awareness strategies. Pandora is a great platform to consider as well. They have very significant segmentation with their audiences. They are a little bit more costly when you're comparing directly to Spotify, because I know people typically try to balance, which one should I focus my dollars on. But it's great for getting in front of those extremely segmented audiences, and the use of Pandora has, remained steady over the years. Reddit and Twitch are two newer ones. Reddit, if you guys aren't familiar, a website where a lot of people kind of converse about different topics. You can leverage those specific topics to get in front of users who are engaging in certain areas. And then Twitch, a lot of people are using it for kind of real-time video sharing. They're introducing advertising capabilities as well through banner ads and video ads as well. So the net of this is there's going to continue to be more and more channels. It's great to stay on the pulse of what's going on. Not every channel is going to make sense for every program, but it's great to explore the different capabilities from a creative and audience targeting perspective and see if those channels are the right fit for you. So kind of wrapping this up as far as looking at, once you have these campaigns, how do you track them? How do you prove ROI? We all know that at the end of the game, we want to drive qualified leads and drive enrollment as well. So we really recommend setting up kind of overall tracking. Google has a great free product called Google Data Studio that we use internally for our clients. Here's an example of a dashboard. But you can use a tool like this to aggregate all of your data across channels, set up different KPIs, look at how you're doing as far as leads versus your spend, understand how things are performing across the board when it comes to different audience targeting, and create a lot of custom reporting. If this overwhelms you, I think the biggest thing is to just think through how are you going to measure and how are you going to prove the ROI. So really understanding how that user engages on the front end and how to track them all the way through enrollment through your CRM is extremely important. So just having a methodology for that, but then also ensuring that you have a way to kind of track ongoing performance, because what this type of data allows you to do is really understand data real time with actionable insights that allows you to take action and optimize what's performing well and what could use improvement as well.
At Capture, we believe in all the exact same things. That we need to be able to see the student decision journey, be able to track it with a personal story behind it, and have the data to show if your ads are working or not working. And we also believe in the integration of marketing automation in that as well. You can see a picture of a screen with a computer laptop there, and that is a profile of a student who is coming both to your website and also receiving digital ads, and it's their story of how each individual student using Capture's behavioral engagement marketing automation tool will be able to show how a student is interplaying between ads that would be like on LinkedIn, and then what it would look like when they're coming to your website, and how you can retarget and get them to come back to your website, and what it takes for that student to bounce between both content that is being created and displayed on your website, similar to what an ad would look like on Facebook, for instance, and then also interplaying the story back and forth. We're going to have a demonstration for the marketing automation tool that I'll tell you about here at the end. But quickly, we are able to provide toasters, which would be an ad appearing at the bottom of your .edu site. We've been talking all about content that would be on like .com sites, ESPN, any of your other channels that you use every day. But you can also have that same content go onto your .edu site, which is what we call dynamic content with marketing automation. That would be toasters, a popover display that would be a more intrusive, where you really want to get their attention and it overtakes the screen to show an important message, maybe a deadline for a student who hasn't submitted what materials are needed to finalize their application, or a virtual open house, something like that. Image swap, a lot less intrusive. If you're coming to the site and you know, for instance, that you have a student from out of state and you want to change the image on your banner of the background of your website, you can make that switch through the marketing automation tool. And then you can also do what's called progressive identification. Haley talked a lot about how you can push people to your website, or pushing them to landing pages. We all know that on a landing page you can gather their information and then begin communicating with them. But what if that student just goes to your website, they see your ad, and then they close out and then they go to your website? Progressive identification allows you to gather small nuggets of who they are, like, are you a student, or are you interested in grad school, or are you an alumni of the institution? You can ask questions, and then you can build, like, the next time they are you, what is your name or your email address? And you can build a profile over time rather than having to get all of the information at one moment. Additional items that you can have: triggered emails, triggered direct mail, analytics, the whole 9 yards. And then at the very bottom with behavioral engagement, and again, we'll talk about this in more detail if you're interested in how it interplays with digital marketing, is a very small example of a student at Drew University who was an international student. They had a goal, just like Haley said, you need to know what the goals of the program are, and they were looking for more international students because we know that international students are on decline nationwide. And this particular program, this particular example, you can see where the student has been served with a digital ad, then they came over to the website, and then they were provided with a toaster message that was specific to the country for which they lived in. So having that very cohesive message that you're trying to speak to that person as you're trying to get them to enroll in your institution, it really goes back to your quote very well, that if they feel like they're being marketed to, then you're not doing your job well. You want to make it so that you feel like you know them without it being invasive to them. I mentioned the word toaster a couple of times. It's like a piece of toast. You can imagine it popping up at the bottom of your screen. Here are a couple of examples of an institution, Roberts Wesleyan, that both Converge and Capture are partnering on to use digital solutions as well as marketing automation to have this seamless interaction. You can see that it has the strong call to action to apply for the spring of 19. And you can also get program specific, like the one on the right is talking about social work and specific, because any column of data that you can send us, we can pivot and make that a market segment and speak to that person individually, just like the persona creation that we were talking about earlier that Haley was talking about. So in terms of next steps, let's not do next steps, let's do takeaways. In terms of our takeaways from today, to reiterate, you have to know who your audience is. You have to be authentic and creative so that they don't feel like they're marketing to. You really need to think about where you're spending your money. Haley, I think one of the best parts of your presentation today was talking about which swim lanes you should be using to either have someone who is either in the awareness part of brand awareness, or which, search, retargeting, using those tools in interest and consideration, and understanding that you have to bucket out your resources to know the right spot to be able to both generate the interest and then convert that person into a viable lead that could then go on to apply and enroll at your institution.
Yep, and it's ever changing. We'd see it change based on recruitment cycle too, so always keep that in mind. But yeah.
And that's why we keep you around, to keep teaching us. And then the fourth thing is you have to make data your best friend. You can see both of us have platforms and work together to be able to understand what's working, what's not working. We have at Capture what's called a red dot report. We lay it out on a weekly basis to see, what campaigns aren't doing well. Like, don't keep doing that. Let's just change it up and make it work well. So if you definitely need to work yourself or with a company that is willing to make changes to make your campaigns work well at all times. Thank you to Converge. They're providing you guys with an ebook today, The Measured Leader. This has a brand questionnaire that you can go through, and it is by different department into the institution. So whether it be the admissions side or graduate studies, really looking at the overall brand of the institution and how you're using your digital assets, not just for your one niche area, but how they can interplay together. And again, there's like a questionnaire guide, scorecard that you can work through. So it's not just something that you can learn, but it's also supposed to be made as a usable tool that you can use at your institution. So thank you to Converge for providing that for you guys today. And then finally, you're going to be receiving from us a copy of this presentation and slide deck. Really encourage you guys to check out both the blog that Capture has, which is the Capture Blog Digest, Grad and Professional Edition. You can subscribe to that. You can also subscribe to Converge's consulting newsletter. I'm a recipient of it, and I always enjoy reading that as well. So
thank you.
You're welcome. Subscribe yourself to that. And on our follow-up, we will set you up with a couple of days where we get a little bit more weedy to talk about what works in partnerships that we have together. Today, we wanted to make it really informational so that you learn more about digital marketing and what you can do. If you'd like to see how digital marketing and marketing automation work well together, check your email. We'll set out some times for you coming up in the next week. We do have a couple of questions, but we're getting really to the top of the hour. So I'm going to answer those until we get to the top of the hour, and we will follow up after that. So a couple questions here. Can you talk to us about where the free photo tools, photography tools are that you talk about and for best practices when you're leveraging digital marketing?
Yeah, so every platform, depending on your relationship maybe with that specific vendor, such as Google, they typically offer both kind of in-platform tools. So if you kind of go into Facebook, you can see you can almost create your own slideshow in a video format with just still images. So when I say free tools, a lot of the platforms have tools within them to help you create those assets, but sometimes they also include additional opportunities for resources. So I know with our partnership and potentially with maybe if you work with an agency, they have access to additional resources. I know with our partnership with Facebook, we have access to their creative team to help assess and kind of take next steps with creative. Same with Google, they have video specialists on hand that are helping us edit videos when clients have video footage. And there are a variety of like free photo editing, kind of motion graphic resources out there. I can follow up, Amanda, with a list of those. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I know we've used kind of a few internally when we are working with clients that maybe have limited assets and budget. They have used some of those internally as well. So I will make a note of that and we can follow up with more specifics there.
Sure. Another one that we may want to follow up with as well is recommendations for places to see more examples of higher ed marketing videos.
Yeah, we should have quite a few on our website. You'll have these two. In this presentation, we actually at one point had 6 that we were going to show, but I'm kind of glad we didn't because we could have ran into more technical problems. But we can probably follow up with maybe some blog posts where we do highlight more of those video examples. But a lot of times where we start with our clients is assessing what they have on their YouTube channel and on their website. Those a lot of times we either can leverage those directly for advertising. We might make recommendations to edit them, but I would say looking at actual schools' YouTube channels is kind of our starting point of where we get our advertising assets from.
Yep, I was thinking that as well. Andy Morris is also providing another resource for photography. Adobe Spark for Instagram looks promising, and think that that is free as well.
Yep. We have used that, and they all have very funny names, and I think that's why I can't think of them right now. But I would definitely follow up there.
Awesome. Well, thank you to everyone for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. We hope that you learned something. Please send us your feedback at any time. You will receive a thank you email from us. Feel free to reply directly and let us know what you liked and what we should talk about next. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you all.